You can't deny that point-and-click adventures offer a wide variety of experiences, but a lot of them end up being in one of two categories. Games that try to be serious, games that try to be funny, and on occasion we get a game like Kelvin and the Infamous Machine, which tries to be funny, and actually succeeds. Granted, humour is subjective, and I can't guarantee it'll be your bag. It's full of snark and has no respect for the fourth wall, but it's been a while since I've had a game amuse me as much as this one has. I'm getting ahead of myself, however. Let's do the story first. Lupin the Mad Science Bastard, as I've decided to call him, has invented an actual functional time machine which earns him ridicule from the rest of the world because it looks like a shower. In revenge, he heads back in time to take credit for the greatest inventions in history, causality be damned. So it's up to his lab assistant Kelvin to follow him, restore the past to normal, and save the fabric of time as we know it. We're fucking doomed. Chapter 1 sees you tracking down Ludwig van Beethoven and convincing him to write his 5th symphony so he's remembered as the genius deaf guy he is today, as opposed to finding Lupin the Science Bastard and, as we say in my home country, kicking fuck out of him. Of course, this is done by solving inventory and dialogue puzzles, all of which will result in the past making sense again. Except for Isaac Newton's penchant for writing terrible fanfiction. Can't undo that one, sadly. No, really, that's how he's portrayed. He gets distracted from science by writing the worst fanfiction in history. I should probably mention this game doesn't take itself too seriously. We accomplish all this nonsense via a one-button interface, both a little out of the ordinary and usually a sign of a mobile port, but I find those usually make it onto Android as well, whereas this only made it to PC, Mac, Linux and iOS. That said, it's not a bad interface. You can make the usual arguments of streamlining versus lack of variety in the actions you can take, but I never found myself wanting for information. That's the key to an interface which doesn't describe game objects beyond some mouse over text, because your main risk is the player not knowing what an object is meant to do. None of that here, happily. Even then, that only applies to the world objects. Anything that's in your inventory can be examined more closely by selecting it and dumping it on this magnifying glass. And just because the interface is extremely simple doesn't mean they can't throw some nice time-saving features in there. Double click to warp through exits? Yay! Keyboard shortcut for opening inventory? Yay! Keyboard shortcuts for dialogue choices? Is it my birthday? Also, does that mean I'm 31? Oh, crap. Fantastic features though, glad to see them. Now I'll just exit out of this conversation and... Escape key? No. Oh, apparently I have to click on literally anything except a dialogue choice. That's weird and not even slightly obvious. No option to change that, indeed not many options at all. Separate volume sliders, nice. Text language selection, and some subtitle settings, that's about it. That said, there's the option between subtitles that automatically progress to the next line of dialogue versus waiting for the player to manually click. Been a while since I've seen that. This will probably be my nitpick for the video, but it sounds like some of the voice takes were separated out after recording. I heard the odd line ending awkwardly or even sounding clipped in what I presume was an effort to make it into two skippable lines. I'm not going to harp on that too much, it's an easy mistake to make, hard to anticipate, doesn't really have any good solutions, and for all I know, I'm the only one that noticed. While we're on the subject of dialogue, I have to say that the voice acting is good in a really strange way. It's not good because it's believable, in fact they ham it up to holy hell.
Hey, Franz! I see you've parked for free! Like a peasant!
The voice acting is good because everyone commits to the bollocks they're saying. I'm not bashing the game here, really I'm not. The effort they put into these over-the-top performances really enhances what is, after all, a comedy-based game and not one that takes itself particularly seriously at that. The writing absolutely helps on that front, it makes the bare-bones story very entertaining. Seriously, I can't even remember the last time a game made me laugh out loud before this. Don't worry if fourth wall jokes aren't your thing, they don't pop up too often. And for all the snark, references and self-deprecation the game employs, there is the odd trope that passes by unnoticed. For example, guy runs crooked carnival game, you cheat better than he does, guy complains you cheated, then gives you the prize out of, I don't know, loyalty, honesty, carny code. It's also good enough that having yet another supposedly lovable yet doofus protagonist doesn't give me thoughts of murderous rage, despite Kelvin's obvious doofusness. Whether that's because of the good writing or the odd moment of self-awareness, I don't know.
I am not a smart man.
But I rate this protagonist way above He Who Must Not Be Named from Deponia. I really need to move on from that. I wouldn't call any of the characters particularly deep, and I'd argue that isn't the game's main focus. Puzzles and jokes, that's what the game aims for and most often delivers. I say most often because the game's humour starts stronger than it ends. I remember seeing some jokes fail to land from around chapter 3 onwards. As for the puzzles, I did have to consult a walkthrough once or twice, but at least one of those times was due to me not trying a door. I mean, a door. In an adventure game. And I forgot to try it. My brain must be too full of P-Cross or Deus Ex to pay attention lately, I can only apologise. Because of that, it's hard for me to tell if some of the puzzles are obtuse or not. I didn't have too many problems getting through the chapters and it felt rewarding enough as I went. I'm not one to badmouth walkthroughs in any case. Sure, it would be more rewarding to figure out the entire puzzle yourself, but you run the risk of putting all the time in only to find the puzzle didn't make sense in the first place. I have no problem looking up the solution to an absurd puzzle. Or mazes. Seriously, why mazes? Why ever? The other main problem is that this is not a terribly long title. We're talking around 4, maybe 5 hours for me. I really feel like I have to mark it down for that when they're charging £11. I mean, the Shiva wasn't much shorter than that, and that was only, what, $5? Not to mention that was a very well written game too, so the main advantage Kelvin and the Infamous Machine would have over that is production values. Very pleasing production values, I'll admit. There's some smooth animation in there with a bunch of unique animations to boot. If you watch a lot of online video creators, however, you might recognise some of the background music. I don't know if all this stuff is free or what, but were this a serious game, it would have taken me out of the experience a little bit. It's something to bear in mind if you're making a game, it's those little things which are worth keeping an eye on. And speaking of developers working on little things, I have to give a special mention to the achievements. You get far more than your standard set of "you am complete chapter, yay" chivos. There's a bunch of hidden stuff in here. Seeing all of the characters' dialogue, guessing the combination to a puzzle without finding the clue first, helping a sleeping guard catch a centaur in his dream, that's a rare sentence. My favourite goes to start up the game before a certain other time travelling adventure game was even released. Can't tell you for certain which game that is, but it was definitely released after 1986. Were I to actually guess, as opposed to setting my system clock as far back as it would go, my guess would be 1993. What do you think? I wonder if the achievements for doing extra non-plot essential things would keep players in the game or send them down the wrong path. There's nothing about them to say this was for funsies only, apart from the find a hidden picture ones, they're obvious, and players might end up wandering about trying to see what's changed from their actions, which would be nothing. Because funsies. Still, I like the effort that went in. I mean, when do you ever have to change your system clock to unlock something in the game? Unless you want to kill the end in Metal Gear Solid 3 or something. Spoilers, by the way. Okay, tangent over, and now we're at a point I'm quite familiar with. There's this game I liked, but have some trouble justifying a purchase of. I don't regret paying £11 for this, I got a very pleasant surprise from the whole thing. It's going to be a sad day when I'm not saying that, isn't it? It'll mostly be down to your financial situation. If £11 is a lot for you, then wait for a sale. I've tried to show you just enough jokes to let you know if the humour is your bag without giving away all the best bits. And having yet another doofus protagonist could rile some of you up the wrong way, which is fair enough. What's right for me might not be right for you. Hopefully I've demonstrated that humour well enough that you can judge for yourselves, which is entirely not the point of a review, but hey, you can certainly get more hours for less money, but I think they did a good job. Oh, and for some reason the achievements only pop up once you quit the game. That's weird.